Hello, everyone. In case you missed last week's podcast, all good news. We have new equipment. We have hopefully better sounding audio. Unfortunately, camera setup was not ideal and it did not record the video. We will fix the problem and have it much better for you next week, we promise. Until then, enjoy this audio-only version and make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. We'll see you then.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, no, I really like these new microphones.
I don't want to stop recording. I literally
don't
but,
either.
But we don't know. We don't want to just record a million podcasts.
Well, no, we'll probably just film a Force Stick and Play after this. Let's be honest, because you need to watch.
Is Darius is off today?
Yeah, we can see if we can get him in or not.
Yeah,
for the Force Stick. Well, we'll see.
Up to you.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll figure it out. Hey, everybody! Welcome back to the Super Giddy. You can't tell that because of our new microphones podcast. Oh, it's so nice.
Blue Eclipse podcast.
It's look at that. Look at that sound quality. Oh my this is so weird how I'm getting goosebumps from this.
Beautiful.
It's weird.
Next thing you know, we're gonna be buying ASMR mics.
Oh no.
Oh, I didn't tell you that was part of my plan for our
Oh dear. Oh no. Just introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Tyler Spence.
I'm Frank Joseph. Oh man. We didn't even. Oh, I just like this.
Yeah.
Like I remember.
This makes me want to record podcasts.
Now
before it was like, we gotta listen to that. Like I didn't like watching our old podcast just because of the quality.
Yeah.
But now with the setup of the cameras, and it's gonna just sound a million times better.
Oh, it does.
And I think with it being more focused like this, it'll help us focus more.
Man.
It'll just make everything better.
Yeah. Man, I remember going down that rabbit hole. It was fun.
Yeah.
It took like forever, but I ended with the equipment we got, and I'm super happy.
Yeah. But anyways, so Marvel month.
Yeah. Welcome to Marvel month, guys. Sorry it's in April, but that's when they decided to release their big Endgame movie. Yeah. Even though it was originally announced for May. But then they're like, yeah, the fans, we'll just give it to them a week early. Yeah, you know what? 2 weeks early. Because, if it was in May or March, then it's alliteration. Marvel month. Marvel month.
Yeah.
Marvel month.
I guess that's April. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. I do make the joke, though, that it's Marvel month, so we're going to talk about Captain Marvel. That's right, Shazam. No.
So
we will do a car review of that. A car review. Just like how we're going to do car reviews of a lot more things, because, like I said, in the update, I go to movies anyway. Might as well make content.
I should go to more movies. I should go see more movies in movie theaters.
Us is coming out this weekend.
I heard.
We should go see that because Darius is a big crybaby and will not see that.
Really?
He told me, and I quote, "I am not seeing that movie." To which I'm like,
I didn't see Get Out.
You don't need to.
I know I don't need to, but I'm just saying. So I won't know. I don't think anyone knows what to expect, actually.
Well, no, because this isn't tied to it at all.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
But it's still
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele, right?
Oh, it's so good. And it has like Peter Nyong'o and
I saw the trailer for it, and it looked really interesting.
I know, I'm excited. Anyway, Marvel month.
Yeah, Marvel month. So me and Frank got into an interesting discussion. We went to go get something to eat the other day. At our favorite place to eat. IHOP.
There's a story behind that we won't get into.
Not right now. Anyways.
Yeah, no, I remember during that conversation, I'm like, man, we should have saved this for a podcast. This is really good.
But we can still have the conversation.
No, we can have it again.
So for those of you who don't know, I am the one out of the three of us that has like hardly seen any Marvel movies.
And what was the last one you saw, Tyler?
Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Oh wow, you mean that one, the one that came out forever ago,
like 2014,
15 maybe.
15.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I was talking. I was watching a YouTuber stream Devil May Cry 5, which is just a side tangent. He was talking about how I'd asked him. I was like, "Do you need to play the previous Devil May Cry games to enjoy this game?" Because I haven't played the previous games, and I'm really interested in picking up 5, which I've made my decision and I will pick it up. But he said that he put it very well, and one of the other people in the stream put it very well as well. Basically, the previous games provide context, not continuity, which essentially just means that you don't need the previous games because of how well the story is presented in this game for what's happening, but playing the previous games will add a bit more of a gravity to the things that are done in this game, and you'll get obviously any Easter eggs or any extra stuff. But the story itself is presented well enough to where you don't need the previous games to be able to enjoy what's happening in this game. And so I was thinking about that, and I'm like, well, for someone who hasn't seen that many Marvel movies and really wanting to catch up, but maybe not want, maybe, you know, eventually seeing all of them, but which ones I should see first to really get an idea of what's going on. You know, we started talking about what's
necessary,
what's needed to understand at least the Avengers sort of as the keystone movies.
Yeah, bearing in mind that obviously like each individual
stands on its own.
Standalone movie should stand on its own.
Right.
Obviously the reason Iron Man 2 falls so flat is because it's only set up. It's only we're going to get characters to a point for future movies. That's the biggest problem with Iron Man 2.
Right. But with the way we broke it down as we went through the Marvel phases, I believe is how we went through it.
So they originally had phase 1, which was Iron Man 1, Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, the First Avenger, and Avengers, the first one. And then phase 2 is Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America Winter Soldier, really good. Guardians, also good.
I've seen Guardians.
Age of Ultron, and then Ant-Man.
Right.
That's phase 2. And then phase 3 is literally just everything after that up until Endgame. And then they're doing phase 4, which basically means, okay, we're going to stop doing phases. It's just, hey, here's the movies now.
Right. So we broke it down into phases and we were like, so if you want to keep up with the Avengers and you want to like watch that series of movies and all and assuming that the Avenger movies are in this list of movies you need to watch, like do you need, these are the standalone movies in each phase that you should watch for the setup for the Avengers that are important.
Specifically with Endgame.
Specifically with Endgame in mind.
Not knowing anything going into it, what are you going to need to watch?
Right. So I believe the first movie we said is we need to watch the first Iron Man.
Yeah, because it sets up everything.
Yeah,
it sets because that's the thing too, is the first Iron Man, they weren't expecting it. They were just like, we're just gonna make an Iron Man movie. John Favreau is.
Yeah, I've seen the first Iron Man, but it's been
still holds
a
up.
long time since I've watched it.
I remember watching it again in college. Still holds up.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, no, it still holds up.
So we agreed that you need to watch.
But you definitely need to, because it sets up the entire universe. It really does.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's really self-contained, and sure Coulson's in it, and he's a through line through the first phase, like it's honestly, it actually does a really good job of setting up just the universe and the idea that there's probably other superpowers in here, especially that ending with Nick Fury, where he's like, "Welcome to the Avengers Initiative."
Right. Mm-hmm. So we agreed.
So that one's necessary,
Iron Man is necessary.
100%. I then argue the next necessary movie is not Hulk, because they changed his actor.
Right.
It goes from Ed Norton to Mark Ruffalo, which one, I love Mark Ruffalo. I think he's a fantastic actor. So I'm glad that switch happened. But because of that switch, they then have to basically reintroduce Hulk a little bit in Avengers.
Right.
So because of that, you don't really need to see
the original Hulk.
You don't need to see the Incredible Hulk.
No. So
then Iron Man 2, you can make the argument that because, again, they replace Rhodes with Don Cheadle instead of Cuba Gooding Jr., you'd make that argument. But again, I
think we agreed that
you don't need to.
I mean, obviously, me agreeing doesn't mean much, but
yeah. I mean, like in later points, you find out that this guy who is Rhodey has an Iron Man suit, and he becomes important. But like, just the idea that Tony Stark makes suits. Oh, he has a friend. That friend has a suit and also does things. That's not really that big of a leap.
Oh yeah, that was the whole point of that movie, wasn't it?
Was to set up
literally set up the other guy in a suit,
pretty much,
basically,
and then future stuff that they never really explored.
Yeah, so
you don't need to see Iron Man 2.
Yeah, so Iron Man 2,
especially, and you shouldn't.
Yeah, I've heard it's not good.
One of the worst. So then Thor, I make the argument that only because of how important Loki becomes, you really need to see
the original Thor.
You should see the first Thor movie. I think the stuff that happens to Thor is skippable, mainly because like at the end of it, he destroys the Bifrost, which makes it impossible for him to go visit Earth. And then the Avengers, he goes visits Earth, and you're like, wait, what?
Right.
They kind of retcon it by saying Heimdall can do it, but like it is a bit of a continuity error. And they kind of retconned it a little bit. But yeah, I mean,
so
mainly for the interaction between Thor and Loki. Mainly for Thor and Loki.
For original Thor, which
kind of
think I've seen. I can't remember if I have.
Yeah, because again, I mean, like, yeah, Thor isn't really connected to anyone else.
Right.
Yeah, so you kind of need to see that. And they don't really reintroduce him. The way he shows up in Avengers is literally just he's attacking people and he's a god. Right. So you kind of need some setup for that.
Yeah. So
then you go to Captain America.
Yeah, so specifically for Loki and just for an introduction to Thor, even if not everything that happens with him is important.
Yeah.
You should see first Thor.
Yeah. Now, Captain America, the First Avenger, I think you should see. This is a personal opinion. I just love that movie. I think it's underrated a lot, and I think people should see it a lot more. It does a good service to the character of Cap. It's really well done. That being said, you kind of don't need to see it.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. So
they establish his character in in Avengers because Nick Fury goes to find him, and you can tell that he's this man out of time, and you understand. Oh, he was this important dude in World War II, and now he's in modern day.
Yeah. So
and you can make the argument like, well, you need to know about Bucky, but I would make the argument that in later movies you find out about the relationship a lot more. And so that's
what I've heard.
Yeah, especially Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is basically that's what the movie is about.
Right.
And yeah, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. So
we'll say asterisk by Captain America: The First Avenger. You don't need to see it,
but you probably should.
I recommend it. I really like it a lot. I remember rewatching it for Civil War, and it was fun. I really liked it.
Right.
And then Avengers. You can skip that. No, of course you need to see
Avengers.
Avengers. Of course.
I mean, to be fair, I think out of a lot of the Marvel movies that I've seen, which is not very many, we're gonna ignore that. Out of a lot of the Marvel movies that I've seen, I like Avengers, but because Avengers is Avengers and it does the superhero thing, it's you kind of it's okay.
It's generic, and that's.
But the thing is that since this is centered around eventually seeing Endgame, you need to watch Avengers.
Yeah, because they also reference that a lot too. The
that original?
No, the fight in New York. The event, I think, is what they call it,
or something like that.
Basically, that the aliens show up and invade New York.
That's what happens, right? I can't remember a movie that
well, but
I remember
Loki is given the staff by this one dude. We're like, who's this one dude? And it turns out to be the Chancellor of Thanos, who then dies in Guardians. So he's really a useless character. But he gives Loki the staff, and Loki takes the Chitauri, and then he invades her.
Stuff,
and he evades her.
Yeah, because isn't Loki the bad guy of Avengers 1?
Correct.
Sort of, right?
Correct. Yeah. No, not sort of. He is.
Yeah, he is
he is the main.
Which is why it's important to see Thor, so you can see what happens.
He also gets his butt kicked in.
Yeah, doesn't. Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember the gifs of Hulk just throwing him around.
Well, you have that one. You have the one where Hawkeye shoots an arrow at him. He catches it. And he's like, haha, and then it explodes.
Oh.
It does not look good for Loki in that movie. Yeah. He's like there to look menacing, but even because at that point a lot of people didn't like Cap, or at least they were like, oh, he's okay. I don't see why he's on this team. He's just really strong.
Oh, what Captain? Oh,
yeah. But I feel like even Black Widow
you could make that
Hawkeye
argument. Yeah, I was gonna say you can make that same argument for Widow and Hawkeye even more so.
Yeah, especially. And that's the other thing. Widow is introduced in Iron Man 2, but again, she's more introduced. I think
she's more introduced in Avengers, isn't she?
Because that's the thing. In Iron Man 2, it's like she's this secretary lady, but then she turns out to secretly have been a spy the whole time.
Whereas in Avengers, she just shows up. She's tied up to a chair.
She's tied up in a chair, being interrogated. You're like, oh, who is this? And then a phone goes off, and she goes from, oh no, what are you gonna? Hold on, it's work. Yeah, no, I'm busy. And then kicks everyone's butt. That's such a better character introduction.
Right.
It's so much better. And Hawkeye, he's in Thor for like 2 seconds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Literally, this is what happens. Thor shows up, tries to pick up his hammer, and they're like, he's going for the hammer. And then you see Hawkeye, and he looks at the sniper rifle, and then he grabs a bow. And then he's like, I'm going to do it. Don't do it. I'm going to do it. Stand down. Okay. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first one.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fun. In recent memory, it's gone down my rankings of Marvel movies just because I like the character interactions in the later movies a lot more. But I mean, it's still monumental for what it did.
I mean, the character interactions in Age of Ultron alone to me seemed way more interesting.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Even though overall, I think the movie is less than the first one, like as a package.
Yeah, maybe.
As an experience, it's less.
I mean, I enjoyed it more, but
no, I enjoyed it more too. But I think the first one's a more tight film, and it's logical and it's rigid and it's good.
Right. Yeah. So phase one.
That's phase one.
Phase one is obviously Iron Man,
Thor, asterisk on Captain America, and it's specifically Avengers.
Yep.
So then we go to phase two. You don't need to see Iron Man 3 because the big point of Iron Man 3 is like, hey Tony, you're important without your suits. And he destroys all his suits, gets rid of his arc reactor. But then even in later movies, he has an arc reactor.
Yeah.
So it's not even worth it.
I don't even remember why he has the arc reactor in the first place.
Because the bomb goes off. Yeah, the bomb goes off, and there's shrapnel that wants to go to his heart. Yeah. And the arc reactor is basically a magnet that stops the shrapnel from reaching his heart.
Really?
Yeah, that's the reason.
Huh.
Yeah. I know it's stupid.
Because you'd think after enough time they just wouldn't go.
Nope. comics. You don't need to see 3. A lot of people aren't a fan of 3. I'm one of those people. Not because of the twist.
I've never seen 3.
I think the twist, I won't say what the twist is, but if you know what the twist is, you know what the twist is. I think the twist is fine. I think they could have handled it better.
Or maybe I've seen 3, but it's been so long I don't remember any of it.
It's Iron Man without his armor for most of the movie. And that's a lot of people.
I like Iron Man, so maybe I would enjoy that movie.
Yeah, maybe.
I like it because I'm a huge fan of Iron Man. But
okay, so then there's that.
So don't need to see Iron Man 3.
You really don't need to see Thor: The Dark World. Like, it introduces an Infinity Stone. You don't need to see it. You really don't. Don't watch it. It's not worth it, folks.
You saying that because it's just? Are you saying that specifically in the context of us?
One, it's a bad movie.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
But 2, when that Infinity Stone gets captured by Thanos in Infinity War, it kind of makes sense that the person that it's captured from would have one of those.
Okay.
So it's not even that big of a surprise.
Gotcha.
It's not like, oh, I'm so surprised that the collector who collects things has an Infinity Stone.
Yeah. So we're out 2 for 2. Don't need to see Iron Man. Don't need to see the second. Don't need to see Iron Man 3. Yeah. Don't need to see the second Thor.
Yeah. So I think that leaves us now to one of the best most critically acclaimed Marvel movies.
Second,
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I have not seen Winter Soldier.
Oh, buddy.
I've heard nothing but praise for that movie.
It's so good. And I think you should, like how I had the asterisk on Captain America: The First Avenger. You definitely need to see this.
Yeah, because isn't the relationship between Cap and Bucky?
It's so important.
Not only better, but it's so important for specifically Civil War, right?
Yes, and Civil War is so important. But yes. Definitely need to see this one. It also has a good relationship between Black Widow and Cap. It's really well done. It introduces Falcon, but not in a way that seems forced, which is really good. It also has some stuff with Shield that's kind of important that they later retcon, so it doesn't matter. Right. But you should see it.
You should see it.
Guardians. The next movie would be Guardians.
We agreed that was a yes, right?
Yeah,
because it's like the only introduction to the Guardians aside
correct.
From what?
Guardians 1 and 2 are the only movies they're in. They don't ever connect until Infinity War.
I saw the first Guardians. I love that movie.
It's good.
I have not seen the second Guardians.
I'm so glad, by the way, that James Gunn's back to direct.
Yeah, I saw that.
Good job.
Yeah, I saw that.
Good job, Disney. I'm proud of you for going back.
Yeah, thank you.
It takes a real man to do that. So yes, the first Guardians for sure. We'll get into the second one when we get to that. Yeah, but the first one you definitely need to see.
It's also just a good movie.
Yeah, and
like it's the way it introduces those characters and what happens in that movie. I really enjoy.
It does introduce the Infinity Stones and the Collector.
Yeah.
Even though the Collector doesn't become super important, he is in Infinity War, so you're not like questioning because there is a point where they go to see the Collector in Infinity War. So if you know who he is, it's no longer helps. This. Yeah, I'm confused. Why are we going here?
Right. You understand.
Yeah.
Plus, like I said, it's just a good movie.
Yeah. And then that leads us to Age of Ultron,
which you should watch.
Yes.
Because this is about watching Endgame, and you should watch.
Yeah, because it introduces like a bunch of important things. It introduces
just Vision's
in that movie. Yeah. It shows you.
I just wasn't sure if that was the first one.
Because so it's Vision's important. Scarlet Witch is introduced in that movie.
Yep, and
technically Quicksilver, he dies. Spoilers. Yeah,
sorry if you haven't seen it yet.
Listen, he's not in any of the other movies.
He's just in that one.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
Oh, does Scarlet Witch become important? And
her and Vision's relationship is important in Infinity War.
Huh.
It's a comics thing. They kind of have a family. It's weird.
Really?
Yeah, they
I didn't know it was like that in the
comics. There's an entire story where because Scarlet Witch physically can't have kids, she literally bends reality so she can have kids. It's weird.
Huh.
Yeah. So yeah, watch Age of Ultron. Even though some people didn't like it, we both agreed that at the very least the character interactions. Hawkeye's farm is 100% one of the best parts in the movie.
Yeah, and you need to just like we said, even if it's not that great of a movie, which honestly I like it more than the first Avengers, but that might be my bias because the thing I like about Marvel is the characters. So the character interaction being as good as it is in Ultron is enough for me, even if the movie isn't perfect.
Yeah. I mean, and I understand the idea of why they made Ultron the way he is, because in the comics, he's just obviously a killer robot. He has that personality. And in this one, because he has part of Tony's brain, it makes sense that he's super sarcastic.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just really liked him as a villain.
No, yeah, I enjoyed him too.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So then obviously
the last movie in phase 2 is Ant-Man. You don't need to see it because he gets introduced. He's this random dude in Civil War. He feels like this random dude in Civil War. Like he kind of just shows up because Falcon knows him. But honestly, you don't need to see it. It's just like, okay, I get it. You can shrink. And honestly, there's a part in Civil War where he just shows up because he grows back to normal. And it's like, that's much more, you definitely don't see that coming if you don't know who Ant-Man is. Because you're like, wait, he grows? Because like you instantly get what his power set is after he does that.
As soon as you see that happen, I'd imagine.
Like, you don't need to. So, you don't need to see his movie. So
don't need to see it.
You really don't.
So that's the end of phase 2, right?
Yep. That's the end of phase
2. You skip Iron Man 3 and the second Thor.
Yep.
Winter Soldier. Do watch Winter Soldier and Guardians.
Winter Soldier, Guardians, and Age of Ultron.
And
then you don't need to see Ant-Man.
Don't really need to see the rest.
Not at all. All right, phase 3. This is a lot of movies.
Boy.
So the Civil War, Captain America: Civil War.
Yes, watch.
100%.
Watch Civil War.
Because what's important is where it ends. It ends with the Avengers basically not being together anymore.
Right.
Like they're split off, they're fractured. And that's super important for an Infinity War. People thought like, oh, Cap at the end, because Cap gives him Tony a phone and is like, hey, if you ever need trouble, call me. And people are like, oh, cool, you didn't do anything. Thanks. But then in Infinity War, it's like Bruce Banner is like, hey, call Cap. And he's like, I kind of went into a fight. I almost killed his friend.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that
so
Civil War is really important.
Yeah, so Civil War is important. Are there any movies you should watch before Civil War? Or Civil War the
Civil
first
War's
one?
The first
it is the first one in phase 3? Okay, never mind then.
Yeah, I know. After that, okay, I got to get into my mind. I think Doctor Strange.
Which I think we agreed.
You don't need to see him.
You don't need to see it.
Especially because he's a guest appearance in Thor Ragnarok. And I think that guest appearance explains the character very well.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it makes sense that, there's this wizard that's existed for all this time in New York. Yeah. I'm okay with that. That makes sense.
And just to let you all know, we've reached the point in which I'm not.
Oh, I know.
Like seeing these movies.
Oh, I get you. So Doctor Strange, I liked it. I thought the third it did the reverse of what most superhero films do, where the third act is usually the problem. I think its third act is really good. Mm-hmm. It does a good twist and subversion on what a third act normally is, and I liked it a lot.
Right.
But you do not need to see it. You get his character pretty well in Thor Ragnarok, and especially in Infinity War.
Which, by the way, is that the next movie?
No, the next movie is actually, I want to say, Guardians 2.
I can't remember what we said about Guardians 2. Did you?
You don't.
You don't.
I don't think you do, because Guardians 2 takes place a few months after Guardians 1. It's one of the few that doesn't take place in the year that it's aired.
Yeah.
You don't need to see it. Like, in all honesty, it doesn't feel like the characters changed too much from the start of Guardians 2 to the end of Guardians 2.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be kind of, I don't know. When I think of those Guardians characters, I don't imagine much character growth coming from any of them.
There's really only one big thing that happens. Mary Poppins, I think. What happens to him?
Yeah.
That's the only really big thing that happens. But with the way Guardians 1 ends, he's not even a part of the Guardians anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that doesn't really affect the Guardians in Infinity War, so you don't need to see it. So yeah, you don't need to see it. It doesn't introduce any Infinity Stones, which, quick aside to Ultron, that's also important because it at least introduces the idea of the Infinity Stones. I mean, Guardians 1 does it too, but Ultron does a little bit better of a job with that. So you don't need to see Guardians 2. Spider-Man Homecoming. Don't think you need to see that.
Yeah, I think we agreed on that.
Because he's in Civil War.
And I think you said the introduction. I mean,
his introduction is in Civil War.
To be fair, out of all the Marvel characters that, really doesn't need an introduction.
It's the guy who's had 15 movies.
It's the guy who's had,
there's been 3 different Spider-Mans, and if we're counting into the Spider-Verse, there's been, with that one, 7.
Right.
You know the story.
Right, yeah. And not only that, but I think just when you're thinking about characters and you're watching these movies, Spider-Man's one, like you said, even if you didn't know even if you hadn't watched any Spider-Man movies, you would know about Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's the first popular.
Yeah, he's there. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think maybe if you really needed what take of Spider-Man this was.
Yeah.
Because there are a few different ones. Like, for example, especially in the newest game that came out, it's him what?
In his 20s.
Yeah, in his mid-20s or whatever.
Age.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas the one in Homecoming, he's what?
14, 15.
Yeah, super young.
Yeah.
No,
No,
does Homecoming even establish
he's
the
15.
mentor thing with Stark?
Yes. You can make the argument that Civil War does because Stark pays him a visit to his house.
Oh, okay.
So you
Yeah.
can make that argument.
Right.
It kind of defines it a little bit more. It does make that richer, but it's not needed.
But it's not needed.
It's not needed,
Right.
especially considering at the end of Homecoming, he's offered a new suit and denies it. But then at the start of Infinity War, he gets that new suit.
Right.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Which, by the way, make sure to remember that this list is specifically what you would need.
Yes, it's not on if they're good or not. Obviously,
not
I loved Michael Keaton as the Vulture. One of the best performances, easily. He makes that movie, but no, you don't need to see this movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Not for specifically with the intent to watch Endgame when it comes out.
And plus, you get enough of him in Infinity War that
I figured
that moment
yeah.
is still impactful.
Right.
The next movie I want to say is Thor Ragnarok.
Which we agreed that yes.
Yeah, you need to see that.
Need to see.
Because one, it's really good.
Yeah,
He hasn't seen it yet. I will make him see it.
I was gonna say I think there was a couple of things he was telling me about. I think the things we agreed on was that Hulk's
Hulk. It explains that why Hulk is with Thor in space. Because if you go into Infinity War, it literally starts with Thor and his ship being destroyed by Thanos, and then the Hulk shows up out of nowhere, and you're like, that doesn't make sense. What happened?
Right, but you watch Ragnarok and you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Because at the end of Age of Ultron, another reason why you should watch it, the Hulk goes into a Quinjet and leaves for who knows where.
Yeah,
and then he shows up in the Thor movie.
Yeah, and I remember that we were talking about it, and because of the whole rights thing with Hulk, they couldn't really have their own Hulk.
Yeah, they can't have an individual Hulk movie anymore. Yeah.
So the Ragnarok really works as maybe not an introduction, but like
it's a
good thing for Hulk to understand the character more.
Plus, where it ends, the literally in continuity. Ragnarok ends, and then it's Infinity War immediately.
Yeah, so watch Ragnarok because it's good from what I've been told.
Oh, it's so funny.
I'm sure it's going to be really good when I watch it.
It's my favorite version of Thor in the MCU.
Yeah,
and I hope they keep going down that road with it.
Yeah, isn't it where isn't Thor?
He's a funny jock, basically.
Yeah, basically,
like he's the dumb jock that doesn't realize he's funny, and it's great.
Yeah,
it's great. Then there's Black Panther.
Can't remember what we said. Did we?
I'm gonna say no.
We're gonna. Yeah, I remember we were very 50, like because you were talking about.
So again. Not judging it on the movie. Again, like the actual... love the character interactions in that movie. But the only major event that happens is the fact that that Wakanda is open to the world.
Right.
It went from isolated to open.
Which is important for Infinity War.
Because they go to Wakanda, yes.
Right.
But the relationship between Black Panther and everyone is established in Civil War. And in all honesty, in Civil War, it's Wakanda... diplomats are destroyed or killed, and that's how T'Challa gets brought into the narrative and blah 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 blah.
Oh, okay.
So you could skip it and then not because they don't really talk about how Wakanda like the characters are surprised that T'Challa, who is the prince, then becomes king of Wakanda, is the Black Panther, like this super powered guy, and they're like they become surprised by that, but it's never implied that Wakanda is this third world nation that isn't super technologically advanced. So it's a huge surprise. Mm-hmm. Like Panther does, but Civil War does not. Sorry.
No, you're good. So
you don't need to see it.
You don't need to see it.
It doesn't establish anything that's important other than that. And you already know his character. You kind of already know about the Dora Milaje because there's a quick point in Civil War where Dora Milaje is like, move or you will be moved to Black Widow. So you're already instantly like, I don't know who this chick is, but this is great. Right. So the leap isn't that big. And then that leads us to Infinity War. Should you see Infinity War before Endgame? Nah, nothing important happens in Infinity War.
No, nothing at all.
No, it's literally the crux of it. You need to see it. Yeah.
Probably the reason why they call the next movie Endgame is because of Infinity War.
There is a line that is uttered by a character that says, "We are in the Endgame now," which they wrote after they came up with the title for Endgame.
That sounds like a Stark quote, but I guess I'll find out.
I ain't gonna tell you.
Yeah, I guess I'll find out when I watch it.
I'm really you obviously need to see it.
Yeah, so watch Infinity War.
So then the next one is Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Which no,
because Ant-Man's important from what I've seen from the trailers and just obvious general knowledge. He is important in Endgame, but again, it makes sense. Like, it's not that big of a leap to be like, oh, he shrunk himself to this state and then he unshrunk himself and now the world is destroyed. Like, you don't need to see Ant-Man and the Wasp. And also, it's just okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
So you don't need to see it.
Is that it for Phase 3?
No, there's one more.
What's the last one in Phase 3?
I mean, it just came out. Captain Marvel.
Oh.
Yeah, Captain Marvel.
Right.
Right. See, the biggest problem with Captain Marvel is it's only a little bit more of a month difference between Captain Marvel and Endgame. And usually we've gotten like a few months.
Yeah, and Marvel's going to get overshadowed by Endgame.
Yeah. Well, no. Box office wise, she's made like in the first weekend was like 153 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No. That movie did well. It did well. Trust me.
I guess I'm glad to hear that. I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
It's fine.
Yeah, I remember we talked about it. You said it was okay.
It's fine. You don't need to see that, and I would recommend you shouldn't. Just because her character, they didn't know what her character was in that movie, which is one of my problems with it. And it feels like her character in Endgame is going to be vastly different.
I was about to say, I bet you they'll probably do a better introduction to her.
They do that with Doctor Strange.
Yeah, they'll probably do a better introduction to her in Endgame than they do in her own movie.
I was saying her character. Yeah, well, later there's a mid-credit scene in Captain Marvel. It's not really big spoilers. It's like they did it with the end of Ant-Man, but basically, it's the Avengers. There's this device that's summoning her, and they're like, "Oh, it went offline. Why do you think it went offline?" And then she just literally appears behind them. She's like, "Where's Fury?" That's it. I'm like, that's a fantastic. That's great. That's a great introduction to that character.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even need to know. You're just like, "Hi, space woman."
Yeah.
Who can shoot laser beams?
Thanks for being here.
What? I think just like with Doctor Strange, her character will be changed in personality, but probably for the better.
Yeah.
So you definitely need to see Endgame.
Definitely need to see.
But you don't need to see Captain Marvel.
Don't need to see Captain Marvel.
You don't. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, wow. Look at it's almost like we have a timer right here that perfectly
that helps us figure this out.
That perfectly paces everything. Oh man, how did we do that?
I don't know, dude.
Well, that is our list. Quick rundown of them. Iron Man, Thor. We're just gonna do the ones for sure. Iron Man, Thor, Avengers.
Yep.
Then we said Winter Soldier, Guardians, Avengers 2.
So.
Then it's Civil War, Thor Ragnarok. Infinity War. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So out of the 21 movies leading up to Endgame, you really only need to see 9.
Right. And now remember, like I said, just a quick final note. Remember that this list is specifically with watching Endgame in mind.
Yeah.
So you could have the most setup possible. And this is before the movie has come out. Now, say the movie comes out.
Oh, it's quite possible we might have to revisit the list depending on what happens.
Exactly.
Red Skull appears in a movie. I won't say which one because I just realized that halfway through that sentence that you didn't see the movie that he appears in.
Yeah.
But he's in. But like it's more like even then it's like the difference is like, oh, he's this cool looking dude, but like if you've seen it, it enhances like Red Skull. Oh my gosh, he's in this movie.
Yep. So like I said, final note, just remember this list that we came up with here is specifically just for watching Endgame in mind, and this is before the movie has come out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, if you want to watch all 21 movies beforehand, if you got the time,
go for it. Like maybe one or two would say skip, but
that's 2 days of nonstop watching movies.
Yeah, you could do it. I'm sure we all got weekends off.
They've actually had theaters have done stuff like that where they just played all the movies.
Yeah,
I do not recommend doing that.
Yeah, because
sleep is important.
Not only that, but not all the movies are worth.
Oh, definitely not. Well, that's when you're like, oh, we're gonna go through this batch of movies. That's a good time to sleep.
Yeah, that's where you take a nap.
Yeah. All right. Well. Thank you for joining us for the podcast. We are excited about Marvel Month.
Hopefully you enjoyed this topic, and hopefully maybe we gave some of you guys who are not as caught up like me a little bit of a guide towards what maybe you should watch for sure.
Trim some fat that can help you with that.
Especially with how many movies there are.
Oh, there's so many movies.
Yeah.
And there's going to be many more to come, I'm sure.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. I'm Frank Joseph Hall.
I'm Tyler Spence.
And we are the Blue Eclipse Podcast.